Welcome to the first episode of ExOrion's podcast series. We're thrilled to have you with us as we embark on a deep dive into the digital transformation of America's manufacturing industry. Today's episode, the first of a two-part series, features the esteemed Jeannie Hill, a 25-year industry veteran. Jeannie will share her remarkable journey from the shop floor to spearheading quality standards projects and mastering ISO standards. We'll also explore the role of Salesforce in revolutionizing the manufacturing sector. Before we begin, we invite you to like, repost, and follow ExOrion Consulting on LinkedIn to stay updated on our insightful series. With that aside, let's dig in.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first ExOrion podcast. Thank you for joining us on this first of many podcasts. This is one of our special edition podcasts, and I want to welcome all of you, and I want to introduce to you Jeannie Bodnar. Jeannie is somebody I've worked with in the past. She has a lot of experience in the manufacturing industry, has some experience on the Salesforce side. What I'm really looking for from Jeannie, and we're going to talk quite a bit about and at length here, is her experience in ISO quality standards in the manufacturing industry. That's really the focus of this podcast. So just want to go ahead and introduce Jeannie. Jeannie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Give us a quick synopsis of Jeannie Bodnar.
Yes, my name's Jeannie, and I have been in manufacturing since 1994, all the way through 2015, where in 2015 I moved into software implementation, helping different manufacturing companies with their choice of software and helping them get implemented to make sure that they exceeded and met all of their requirements.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeannie. Want to tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Well, I was the type of person who, when I graduated from high school, I had no clue what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I went straight into manufacturing in 1994. And while I was in manufacturing, I decided that, probably should go to school, especially since the jobs were paying for it. So our community college offered a quality assurance associate's degree. So I started out there. While I was working full-time, I did the classes and finished up my quality assurance associate. And then I moved, of course, into what felt right next was a bachelor's in manufacturing engineering from Akron University. So I also did that part-time. I was fortunate that one of our colleges had a satellite campus, so I didn't have to travel too far. I managed to get my bachelor's degree. Again, I did all of this part-time as I was working. So as I was working full-time, I held many different roles in manufacturing, from a quality tech to a quality engineer, quality manager, and I also did several different things, from being a safety team lead, preventative maintenance coordinator, trainer, you name it, I did it. If people didn't show up to work, I was on the floor running the tow motor or machine or whatever needed to be done throughout that day. So I learned so much from just being on the manufacturing floor. And then, of course, I was always leading projects, and I was like, well, I seem to like to do this, and I must be doing a good job because I keep getting drug into it, or voluntold, as I like to say.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to go ahead and get my master's degree in project management for engineering from Drexel University. I did graduate with that in 2018. So it was a long road of education. It wasn't something that I just finished, right after high school. I just kept going on and on throughout the years. And then, of course, in 2015, I was approached, it was kind of a mutual thing. I had been doing a lot of implementations for quality software. And I'm like, hey, I like doing this. I seem to do well with it. And I developed a very good relationship with the people working at that company. So I decided to join them in 2015. And I've been doing a lot of implementations for quality, for Salesforce, and then, of course, for all the ISO requirements.
Awesome, Jeannie. Thank you for giving us that background. I think that's relevant, obviously, to this conversation. So, and the upcoming questions we're going to go through. So, while we're here, can you sort of briefly touch on the importance of ISO quality standards in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so ISO is all about saying what you do and doing what you say. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Your everything that you say you're doing, you can back it up with documentation, with proof, with real world environment. So that's the whole basis of ISO. And then, of course, being able to track your processes and be able to look at data to improve your systems, to improve your processes, is what it's all about. So it's always about continual improvement. With any ISO standard, it's like, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is where I want to be. How can I get there? And creating those process improvement plans to get to your end goal.
Okay. So now, do you have? Can you maybe give us some idea of your experience in implementing, specific ISO standards like 9001, 14001, and others?
So in 1999, there was the new ISO standard out for 9001, and I started doing the internal audits, setting up systems, and documenting the processes. That was a lot of work back in the day because a lot of the information was in our operators' heads or in the managers' heads, and being able to pull all that information out and get it on paper and making sure that each shift was doing what the other shift was quite a huge undertaking. And it was something new for many different manufacturing companies. A lot of times when someone retired after 40 years or 30 years, everything was lost. So again, it was new for pretty much all of us, trying to get all of that information. And then, of course, as I started developing and growing into that, I also started to take on roles with environmental health and safety, followed by automation with the IATF for the automotive, and also developing our aerospace. And then at the end of my career, I managed a lab for testing labs. So with that, you have to be A2LA certified. So I had to make sure that I knew all of the requirements for that, put them in place and followed. And then, of course, once I left manufacturing and moved to software, my focus was to make sure I helped the clients with the quality software that they purchased, but to ensure that they met all of their compliance requirements. So that's always the first thing I do when I go into a new manufacturing floor. What are your compliance certifications? How do they need to be met? What do we have documented? Where is it at? How do we share the information? So that way we can move and develop whatever software we're implementing on site. We can do it and do it well to make sure that we're not disrupting the floor, we're improving the floor, and that we have buy-in from not only our stakeholders, but the people on the shop floor.
And just as I guess, building on that to some degree, you obviously had to work with a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we had this conversation offline to some degree. And would you say that was there a wide range of age groups that you had to deal with? So there's people, of course, who were like in my age range who were probably getting ready to, retire at some point from the shop and hand it over to the next generation. And then, of course, there's the young folks coming in. Did you work like across different generations? And what was sort of the dynamic that you experienced working in that area?
So being in a manufacturing environment, I was not only one of the younger people when I started the career back when I was in my early 20s, but I was also probably one of the only women on the shop floor. So I had two hurdles to face. Why are these guys that are, close to retirement, who have been there probably longer than I've been born at this point, wanting to listen to me? So it was a lot of transition for me, a lot of learning. But the biggest thing I learned was that they were our best resource, that no matter how much education or smarts I had, I knew that they knew the job and I needed to respect them and show them respect. And with that, I was able to work well with them because they knew that I took them seriously. They knew that I respected them and I showed them that respect. So I was able to get the information out of them I needed. And then, of course, being able to show them how excited I was with, hey, I know that this is your pain points. Let me help you out. And by showing you how to do it this way instead. And because it was a collaboration, I think that's how I was able to cross the different boundaries that I had.
That's fantastic, and that's a great story. My background is in the last few years is Salesforce implementation in the manufacturing industry, but I spent a lot of my career in financial services, and there isn't much of a difference between the two industries, in the sense that there's a lot of knowledge capital that sits in people's heads, and when they leave, it leaves with them. So the point that you made is relevant in not just manufacturing, but in many other industries. That information is sort of resides between people's ears, and it's sometimes hard to get it out and sort of really be able to make sure the company can leverage it. All right.
I always joke that's my superpower, being able to take everything that's between someone's ears that have been there for 40 years and getting it all on paper.
And it becomes evident how important it is the closer, the older generation gets to handing the baton on to the next generation. It's like, I have to hand this information down to them. It's all in my head. So how do I do this? Effectively, so the company can move on to the its next phase in evolution. All right, so let's talk about Salesforce and manufacturing. If you don't mind, I'll sort of weigh in here to some degree with some of my experience in that respect. So many manufacturers are starting to look at the concept of what's called digital transformation, and that's basically leveraging the data that manufacturers collect and utilize just in the normal course of business. And what they may or may not necessarily be aware of is that of all the industries out there, manufacturing produces 2 times more data than any other industry. There is a lot of machine related data that's produced, and it may not necessarily be evident to manufacturers how important and how valuable that data can be to them. So where Salesforce comes into the picture as far as that evolution to digital transformation is really to help them take those oodles of data points and to determine, okay, what do we do with this, and how do we utilize this to leapfrog this company forward into the next era. Either we're going to go through acquisition and acquire the companies, and of course, if we acquire them, we're acquiring all of their data and all of their fulfillment systems and all of their back-end systems, and how do we kind of pull all that together and utilize that in a way that's going to be beneficial to the organization to grow. And so there are Salesforce has a number of different cloud-related solutions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them in specific is referred to as manufacturing cloud, which essentially is Sales Cloud with a couple of extra objects, if you will, that are built in, that are specifically designed for the manufacturing vertical, and it includes functionality like automating sales agreements and contract management, account-based forecasting, which is huge in the manufacturing industry, utilizing analytics, so utilizing some analytics to take that data and sort of interpret it and visualize it and begin to see sort of where there are patterns that can be leveraged for decision-making purposes, in terms of things like strategies based on market trends and customer needs and basically staying ahead of the curve. Real-time inventory visibility, which is powerful. Production planning and scheduling, collaborative workspaces. Of course, when you work with multiple different teams, you have sales and finance and the operations team, and sometimes they've got to work together to satisfy client needs. There are collaborative workspaces to help them work on the same data, so it's a single source of the truth, which is fundamentally the objective. Partner and dealer management, helping manufacturers to share insights, collaborate on deals. If they have, for example, you may have a manufacturer that works with different distributors or different other partners who maybe produce widgets or sub-widgets that they compile into a mega widget that they sell. The ability to collaborate with those partners. Customizable dashboards and reporting, of course, so that that data can be visualized. It's not just a spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers, but it's actually actionable data. Integration capabilities, of course, are key. Mobile accessibility, in many cases in the manufacturing industry, as you know, Jeannie, you were saying that you walk the floor, the shop floor. You may have salespeople who have to walk shop floors in different locations, and they may need to be able to access certain information on that location's info or that partner or that distributor. The way the Salesforce app works is it also works on your mobile phone. So they could be on site and go through information specific to that particular client, stay informed, make decisions, and collaborate where needed. And of course, compliance and quality, which comes back to what we were just talking about. So there are a number of different features that are specific to manufacturers that Salesforce has that for many, it's really important to, if you're not already looking into it or you've heard this digital transformation concept, you're not really sure what to do about it. There's a lot of content, a lot of blog content on my website that gets to that information in a very layman's terms. I try to keep as non-technical as possible. There's a unfortunate tendency in the Salesforce industry to speak Salesforce language, and it can be frustrating for a lot of people, including us sometimes. So fundamentally, what's really important here is, where do you go from here in terms of your digital transformation strategy? Where do you go and what are the components you need to be aware of? So I know I kind of went through that a little bit longer, but I wanted to sort of lay a foundation there.
Thank you for joining us for part one of this two-part series called ExOrion's Digital Blueprint, Transforming Manufacturing with Salesforce Cloud Solutions. See part two of this series as we delve into real-world applications and success stories, navigating challenges with maintaining quality standards, overcoming resistance to change, and a view into the future of manufacturing in the digital transformation era. Please like, share, and follow ExOrion Consulting on LinkedIn.